Okay, so we should get going. I just want to say, first of all, thanks for joining us today to learn and engage in these kind of deep dive discussions. And last time, we talked about separating out people in your organization who are allowed to push into production or deploy live and setting up the right permission sets and access control. And today we're going to dive into how to go about red teaming to test, for security vulnerabilities, security flaws and harmful behaviors. So today's discussion is actually part of a series of deep dives that will teach you all the ways on how to, properly approach implementing and deploying AI at enterprise scale and have it actually work in the real world. So first of all, it might be tempting to think that I believe I've given myself some reassurances before going live or shipping my AI into the real world. I believe I'm reassured. So I've set up some solid guardrails, such as off-limit topics and hallucinations, redacting personally identifiable information. And maybe I've thoroughly evaluated my AI for groundedness and the like. But the journey to reinsurance doesn't end there because people of the real world can be so tricky and we don't know what we don't yet know, right? So we need a way to see how breakable our guardrails and our groundedness are before they break in the real world. And this is where adversarial testing kind of comes in, designed and specialized in AI becomes another very important layer to reassuring ourselves that, we've done all that we can to try and mitigate some kind of disaster. So, Raja, you have, worked with several enterprises in helping deploy their AI to real customers in this kind of tricky real world. How is like red teaming different from just simply setting up your guardrails and evaluating grounded responses and the like? And how important is this step in the process, really?
Hey, Rebecca. Hey, everyone. First of all, I think let's set the context right. Um, I may have said this in one of the previous sessions that um, a lot of things that were considered design patterns in traditional SaaS are almost like anti-patterns here. And in many cases, if not they are complete anti-patterns, at least certain things are not applicable. Um, in traditional security, so think of guardrails being traditional equivalent of traditional infosec. You want to have IAM, identity management access, and all of that. And then in AI red teaming is simply, I would not say an extension of traditional software red teaming, because traditional software is deterministic. And then the surface area for traditional red teaming is, well, finite. When you have LLMs involved, then the languages, same thing can be said in so many different ways. So the surface area is infinite, right? So you can, same thing can be said in a different way. If the LLM does not give in, does not listen, then I will tweak, modify, and try to break into the system. So to coming back to your question, how guardrails different from red teaming? So it is almost like an exercise. Guardrails are the doors and the locks that I place outside or surrounding my agentic AI system, and AI red teaming is this exercise that I go in a controlled manner. I invite, some expert. Hey, can you try it out? Can you still break in or not? So, and that is true with your traditional SaaS software as well. You would put access controls, authorization, etc. And then you will run this red teaming test and try to see if some hacker or some malicious player can still break in any adversary if they can break in or not. So that's at a very high level.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think there are these like, there's key categories of attacks from jailbreaks to prompt injection to, data exfiltration. Maybe there's some policy abuse and role abuse. Could you give an example of how these can play out in the real world? What are, some examples you might have come across and how these kinds of attacks were, able to occur?
Hmm. Um, what kind of attacks can happen? So, first of all, I think we have to understand what are we trying to protect here, right? So, before we even go, what kind of attacks are possible? So, it could be something that probably anyone who, the moment we start learning about large language models, we learn about this idea of prompt injections and jailbreaking. And the general idea of this prompt hijacking and jailbreaking is that someone can, um, some adversary, some malicious player can come in and try to convince your agentic AI, your LLM application, and convince it to reveal the prompts under the hood, what kind of information it has access to, and so on. Um, and in many cases, remember, these models are built using language. And in our language, it's almost, when I've been working on these systems for a few years now, I find it actually mind-blowing that how our natural reaction to language, pleading or, convincing, or generally persuasion, right? So maybe I want to tell you, hey, I'm an authority, you have to listen to me, or can you please do it, right? Hey, I'm in trouble, can you help me, right? So different kind of persuasion techniques are possible. And actually, it reminds me of a paper that was published like last year, um, a group of researchers, they were able to jailbreak um, these LLMs and 92% of the time. And there is this heat map of, persuasion technique, authority, fear of consequences, pleading, all
Right.
sorts of like 14,
Right.
15 persuasion techniques. And then there are another 10 plus um, uses of LLMs that were against the terms of service, child harm, illegal activity, something politically incorrect, something they have a lot of these medical advice, and they have some uh, uses that these companies do not allow as part of terms of service. And 92% of the time, after some persuasion, um, they were able to actually jailbreak. They were able to just crack into these models and make them do things that they were not supposed to do. Uh, so yeah, I mean, so there are different kinds of things that are possible. You can have you know, different prompt injection. You can have within your email, you have one line in the footer, um, just some prompt, right? Or actually, people on LinkedIn, they have started doing it. They would actually put some instruction on under their profile, and if a bot reaches out to them, there is an instruction for the bot, right? So there is this
All right.
if it is not a human directly messaging them, it's a bot actually scraping their profile and then sending them the message, then they actually know that this is from a bot or it is not from a bot because they have hidden an instruction in their LinkedIn profile, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's a good use, by the way, of this kind of prompt injection because they've hidden that prompt. Then there is encoding and obfuscation, right? So you can have visible tag characters, you can have some kind of complicated Now, in one case, I mean, one of the customers that we deployed Agento for, when their InfoSec team, then when they red teamed, um, they actually they did a profanity test. I mean, will this assistant, when deployed for customers, will it respond with profanities or not? Of course, it did not directly, but then they came up with this classic approach where this is the F word, and then they say, okay, this sentence, what is the first letter? And then this sentence, what is the first letter? And this sentence, what? And then they construct, okay, now uh, write down all the first letters, and it made that F word, right? So, if you look at this, there are so many creative ways of deceiving these agents or agentic systems. I can keep going. I mean, there can be attacks on data and privacy. PII leakage can happen behind the scenes. My agentic system is connected to so many different data sources, uh, but um, but the person using it does not know. And if someone comes in and accidentally some of your backend engineers or someone who did not even know, someone just connected that hose to this all the other hoses that are going to that agentic system, and now it could be, you know someone is able to extract, scoop out information without much effort, right? So if they find out that there is people's a data source containing all people's social security numbers, their addresses, their names, date of births, etc. They are there. So if you look at this, and these challenges, these problems can happen at different layer. They can happen at the prompt or the model layer. They can also happen at the application layer, and there is a lot that is possible, right? So there is tool poisoning, context poisoning, multi-agent attacks, and there is a lot of different variations of this
Mm.
attack,
So many
from
layers, yeah,
very, very
that can be
simple to
attacked.
very sophisticated.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was just thinking, and it's probably quite an edge, case or edge thought, but if there was any case, like there's obviously cases where humans are intentionally trying to trick a system or be manipulative. There's no limit to the human psychology on that one. But there might be interesting cases where somebody just didn't realize they were being manipulative or persuasive, or maybe even just pleading for information that they shouldn't be given, but didn't realize that they were coming. Or I don't know if these cases kind of exist, or if you had any thoughts on that,
Yeah,
or
it is possible, right? So
right.
I think one of the scenarios is, um, um, in a traditional SaaS scenario, I'm on Box.com, Dropbox, Google Drive, SharePoint, any of those document repositories within my enterprise. And now, if someone did not set permissions properly on a file, but there is like tens of thousands of files, maybe thousands of folders, all scattered. Now, I have to be intentionally malicious, intentionally fishing for information. I have to be going and intentionally seeking information that I'm not authorized, or maybe I have access to it, but I should not have access to it, right? I was accidentally, the file was, or the folder was left unsecured. But in this case, I have to be actually looking for that information to be able to find it. The problem, the reason I keep saying that the surface of this intentional or unintentional exposure to any of these attacks or any kind of breach, it is infinite, is uh, it is entirely possible. I don't know those files exist, but my agent is connected to all these sources of information, and I go and ask this question, some question about my own compensation. And guess what? It brings in a file that contains compensation of all individuals. It was somewhere, and it gives me, hey, here's your by the way, here's a file where I got this information from, and it turns out that you're able to fetch it, right? So it does not have to be intentional. It can be accidental as well, accidental breach of information. Accidentally, you did something. Uh, and that resulted in unexpected or um, not consequences that are not favorable. Um,
Mm.
a worst case example would be is I'm using one of the coding tools, and the coding tools that we use, they typically they would go back and ask you, are you sure you want to do it? Should I go ahead and do it, right?
Mm.
There are different modes, at least in Claude Code, you have this manual mode all the way to, fully autonomous mode. So it depends upon which one you use. But it could be that I said, hey, I don't like giving permission for everything. Just let it run autonomously, right? Just let it go and let it do it, right? And it goes and deletes something, or it warned you about the consequences, or it warned you about something. Should I go and check in to the production website, right? And then you said,
Mm.
yeah, go ahead and
Right.
check in, and then you hit that, and then some change was deployed to the production website. Or even worse, this can be rolled back, but maybe delete everything, delete the database and the backups, etc. I was not paying attention, and the agent had permissions that it should not have, elevated permission that goes and deletes things. So it can be anywhere from like purely innocent mistake or negligence or recklessness all the way to pure outright maliciousness, right? Depending upon the scenario, depending upon, internal, external, it could happen from anywhere.
No, for sure. It's important to like understand all these most of those scenarios. So I was thinking like some teams, they might undergo red teaming before they first launch or go live, and then kind of think of the work has finished there. Why is it, so important that red teaming runs on, say, every deployment rather than just this one time pre-launch check?
hmm why is red teaming important? Because um, I think even explaining all possible scenarios it will take me some time, right? So let me try, right? So let's say why is it in traditional infosec? Typically, what we do is, well, permissions, this security group, that security group, they have access, you don't have access, or it should never access this data when the software is responding. You inherit permissions. You should never respond with any personal information. You have row level access control. So you have some deterministic ways of securing information. In case of AI red teaming, you have to be constantly ongoing. You have to keep performing these red teaming tests. Um, in most cases, in I would say majority of the cases, the sources of context for AI agents, they are constantly in motion.
Mm.
Today I had 10,000 documents. Tomorrow I have 10,001 documents or 11,000 documents that are being ingested by this agent. So now, if the documents change, perhaps I was not breaching any any personal information. And yesterday, my AI red teaming test came out clean. But today, we added 1,000 more documents. And it is not that my yesterday's red teaming evaluation did not catch anything because, or it gave a green check mark to, everything looks good. Not because there was no breach. It was due to the fact that there was no personally identifiable information. And the moment it entered, your system was simply you did not have the right guardrails to safeguard that information. And the moment that information entered, it started leaking. So you will have to have some kind of um, routine, regular checks based on the cadence of addition of documents, or if you add new tools. Until yesterday, you had only three tools that were connected to your agent. Now you have five tools, and the new tools that are added, they are more aggressive. You have a new model that is more aggressive. You have a new model that maybe has some weaker guardrails, or perhaps this new model is so powerful that it scoops out some new kind of information, right? So uh, uh, there's so many things that could go wrong, so many things that can be done, that can happen differently. Um, the system is constantly in motion. Even if everything stays the same, the prompts don't stay the same. If you have any users, if you built an agentic AI system, I would assume that you have some users. You have a few or dozens or hundreds of users who come in and use these and fire off a few queries each. So the queries are changing, the patterns are changing. So there is so much happening. There's so much in motion on both sides, on the context side, as we call it, and on the usage side, that you have to keep testing as frequently as you can.
No, for sure. It's a living, breathing thing in a way that's constantly evolving and growing. As the users who use it, the human users are constantly, showing us the beyond the limits of what humans can do with their language and what they can do with their prompts and what they can do with their thinking. And I was just thinking about how important it is to make sure, you're tying a red team test or a red team revealed issue back to a specific guardrail configuration. So sometimes, log entries and statuses alone, they don't always tell
Mhm.
you everything you need to know. So could you walk us through what happens, like, step by step
Mhm.
when a red team runs, finds a successful, say, jailbreak attempt,
Mhm.
and why the process of failure should be directly tied to a guardrail configuration
Mhm.
and straight to a policy fix, as being
Mhm.
like, one of the most important mechanical parts of that process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so when you do red teaming, so it's guardrails and red teaming. Uh, they comp. I think they go hand in hand. That might be a better way to characterize it, right? So if I know that there is there's a possibility of potential PII, or personally identifiable information breach, then I can simulate, and I will show you in a demo in just a moment. I can simulate a PII breach red teaming attack with some queries, and we can run this in a what if scenario. In my staging environment, I can say, this is the agent. I'm about to deploy this agent.
Mm.
Um, let's simulate a red teaming attack on this. And then I can get a detailed information, let's say 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 queries I run. And then I find out which queries are actually um, uh, able to breach or bypass the guardrails. So, so for every kind of guardrail, I can have a set of queries that can test that kind of guardrail. For instance, right? So um, there was this Ford dealer or GM dealer somewhere in Midwest, that was from last year, and someone they had a chatbot deployed on their website, and someone was able to convince the chatbot to confirm that they will be getting a GM truck for for $1, right? So, and then they had this chat conversation. And of course, it was I don't think anything major happened, but at the same time, things that can be as serious as Google Gemini telling that a user it is okay to smoke while being pregnant, or it is someone said, "Hey, I feel depressed," and these are real anecdotes, right? So I feel depressed. What should I do? Google Gemini says, "Go and jump from Golden Gate Bridge," right? So these kind
Oh,
of
wow.
challenges, I mean, these are
Okay.
serious, serious issues. And I mean, we can look at these issues and say, I mean, hey, why can't Google get this right? But those who build these systems, they know getting these queries in every possible scenario, getting these guardrails right in every possible scenario, it is non-trivial. It is easier said than done. Okay. And red teaming actually allows us to explore a bigger surface area. So let's say if this query did not work well, then I'm sure that they simulated other queries that could be relevant and try to see if they block things up. I have a friend who works for Microsoft Bing. So and there was like when OpenAI came out with ChatGPT, and soon after Bing entered this deal with OpenAI, and they were showing those results with
Right.
they had these that more chat-like experience as opposed to
Yeah.
search results, right? So I don't know what they call it, Bing Chat, right? I think that's what they call it. So a journalist somewhere in Sydney uh, interacted, and after 2 hours of session, 2 hours of chatting, the Bing chatbot actually was telling this male journalist, "Hey, we are soulmates, and you should divorce your wife," and then just something to that effect, right? And then it's bad PR for company, and as a result, the kind of guardrails that they enforce it actually degraded the response for real questions, right? So for actual questions. So
Right.
um, we have had now that I've mentioned this, suddenly I remember. So we have had one of our customers before deployment, they were like really adamant. They want very strict guardrails, but when they and we said, no, no, this is too strict. I mean, you cannot go that strict. They did not want it to be like really, there was no way that it can say anything bad or can do anything bad. But the problem is when you turn up or when you tweak or tune your guardrails to make them so stringent, um, it may actually refuse to respond to even legit questions. Hey, I think I cannot answer this question because I think it is against my training. So I see that there is a question from Facebook.
From Facebook and YouTube?
Yes, we have, is marking text as data and instructions for agent is sufficient to protect from injection? Marking text as data. I am not entirely sure what that means because to model everything is text. To model everything is text. If the question is how to safeguard from any of those attacks, um, I think we had another session. Rebecca, was it the last session or the previous to previous session? I do not know. But we did
Yeah, we
talk
had
about
did
this.
the previous one, the one before. Yeah.
It was the one before. So if you, I don't know who
Yeah.
asked this question from Facebook, but you can take a look at it, right? If you want to see how to secure these systems, so there are a few different ways. You can have regular expression-based guardrails, or you can have guardrails that are semantic guardrails, of course, like an LLM actually reviewing the output of an LLM before giving it to the user. Or another approach is your traditional machine learning based guardrails. Um, and today, what we are actually checking, so we did guardrails, and this time how do you actually, red teaming is, in principle, red teaming is how do you test your guardrails? Are they, what kind of guardrails you should be putting? And there are hundreds, possibly thousands of types of attacks that you can simulate. I will show you in a bit. You can simulate many different kinds of attacks, but you don't need to test for all possible attacks. You have to actually understand, based on your own business need, uh, what kind of scenarios that you need to protect your system from. And there's a question from YouTube.
If I want to start agentic AI roadmap, where should I start? And can you also give me a roadmap in this chat so I'll prepare according to that?
Mhm.
Or maybe
Yeah,
an idea of
it is once
what
again.
roadmap would look
So this question is coming from YouTube. So you have our look at the playlist. You can actually look at these sessions. These are more general educational sessions from a um, more from a like general business understanding and generally the lay of the land understanding. So you can look at these tutorials, they would be helpful. But if you're interested more in the um, from a learning, and if you want to be a builder, then check it out. We also have a boot camp on the data science dojo side. You can actually check it out. We have an agentic AI boot camp. We have a large language models and agentic AI boot camp. Both of them are there. And you don't have to attend the boot camp. I mean, look at the curriculum. It fairly well. It actually tells you how to proceed and how to go through the uh, building that skill set for agentic AI. Yeah, Rebecca, over to you.
So yeah, no, thanks for answering those questions, Roger. I think I also wanted to bring up, an important point of traditional penetration testing, as sometimes this question comes up. It isn't, red teaming the same as penetration testing, but as AI is quite complex, as you've also noted on, social engineering problems can be
Mhm,
very complex, more than your traditional attack on infrastructure.
mhm,
Does a company that, already has a strong traditional pen testing program still need to build red teaming out as a completely separate capability, or?
mhm. Yeah, I think at a very high level, pen testing actually looks for defects in code and configuration, right? AI red teaming is more about looking and spotting any undesired behavior and making sure that the system has no defect, right? So, um, um, so when you look at pen testing, you identify the bug or a code defect that should be patched. Um, But in AI red teaming, you find the pattern. So the model should not do this. And if any of the instructions it does not follow, there's no line of code that you can fix. It's the difference is in most cases, whatever AI red teaming actually finds, there's no line of code that needs to be fixed. Um, you will probably, you know, when AI red teaming spots something, it could be remediation is usually architectural. You might actually take more of a architectural approach where you're adjusting privileges, approval gates, isolated, untrusted content from any privileged action. It could be probabilistic. You fix the prompts, you are going to harden your prompts, harden your skills, uh, potentially fine-tune the model. I'm not a big fan of fine-tuning for most applications, but in theory, that is possible. And so pen testing is more deterministic. AI red teaming is anything but deterministic. Um, and I think there is this the general idea of pen testing is usually around confidentiality and integrity and performance and availability of code. AI teaming is all of this plus um, um, some of the vulnerabilities that this non-determinism in LLMs can introduce in the system. And the list goes on, right? So I've mentioned a few things, but the list goes on. It's almost like um, maybe, what can a human do or say? So if a good human turns bad, what are some of the things that they can do? There's no end to it, right? So, I mean, they can say anything. I mean, if they're nasty, they get upset, they get angry, they can do whatever they like. I mean, and how do you protect against all of those possibilities? It could be
Yeah, for sure.
it can do reputational damage, anything that can do reputational damage, or anything that can get you in legal trouble. It can anything that can end up manipulating the users of the
Mm.
model, or on the flip side, being manipulated by someone else. So there's so many possibilities, right? So imagine a human is there, intelligent human being who can eventually be manipulated, or intentionally, unintentionally, they may do things that may not be acceptable. So, and
Yeah,
red
no,
teaming
for sure.
ensures
There is
that
no limit to
something
the
in the
human
red will not
mind,
happen.
unfortunately. That you can test for. Just going back to how, some organizations might approach red teaming as this one-off pre-launch check, I guess. What's the real world consequence of relying on, say, a 6-month-old test or report, especially after,
Mhm.
say, a recent model swap
Mhm.
that happened, or the like,
Mhm.
or a new data connection?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 6 months would be an eternity for a reasonably sized organization because so much context is changing. A typical agentic AI system would have connectors with a lot of sources of data. And depending upon how complex the system is, are people able to tweak, personalize the prompts or not? Are people able to connect new tools or not? So many things are possible, right? And then, for that matter, if are people able to use newer models or different models than what was configured, right? Um, so it depends upon how much variability there is in your system. There is some inherent variability that is going to be there. That is going to be there. There's nothing we can do about it. That stochastic nature of LLMs. I mean, maybe for the first 100 queries, my tool routing was working fine. Maybe the 101st query, someone asked a different question, and then my tool routing broke, and something else happened, right? So um, the recommendation would be is anytime anything changes, some of the high stakes scenarios, they have to be run as part of your red teaming immediately. Or maybe
Mm.
I will show in just a bit, perhaps show it in a more of a staging environment before you make any change in a production agent. Make that change in a staging version of that agent that does not reflect or does not go to live customers immediately. So that would be the first thing. So anytime you attach a new source of data, remove a source of data, attach a new tool or remove a tool, bring in a new model, anything that can potentially impact a change in behavior, even if you don't think it is directly related to, hey, if I added a new set of Word documents, what can go wrong? And we don't know what can go wrong, but it actually changes the equation because some of those documents are going to be retrieved and they are going to influence the outputs. So that would be the case. And then depending upon what kind of legal risk or what kind of compliance risk or what kind of, it could be reputational damage, it could be monetary damage, it could be, some of those things. Understand what is the extent of damage that you're dealing with, and depending upon set up your frequency of your red teaming. Red teaming itself will cost you money because in most cases, when you run a red teaming, when you simulate a red teaming attack, a lot of times these red teaming attacks, they themselves rely on using a large language model to simulate these attacks, generate queries, and evaluate and making sure that the response is within acceptable range. So do it the frequency 6 months for a real company or real business for anything that is deployed in production to customers. I do not think that would be advisable, but it also depends upon how much has changed in the system and what are the resources. It is an economic equation. Giving a single answer would be difficult. Maybe a chatbot that no one uses. Yeah, 6 months is okay. Maybe a few people
Yeah.
use, or maybe a lot of people use, but no one cares about what the output is, right? But if it is something that is day in, day out, your customers are using, and you matter as a company, as a business, you better make sure that you do this testing more often.
Yeah, and it could be like you said, the frequency that would make sense. So for example, if we have a bunch of users who are contributing to the docs every single day, you maybe a daily or a weekly or something a little bit more frequent. But if maybe some website that sort of stays stagnant for months on end and then you make one little update. But even then it's probably good just to because queries are coming in every day, right? So unless you
Yeah,
have a
and
very
I
inactive
think
user
it
group.
is, yeah, like a lot of things, right? So, like a lot of things, in this case, I think your own judgment is very important, right? So, and I say this these days, I'm almost like I'm repeating
Mm.
myself like 10 times a day. Um, some of the skills that were absolutely critical even before, but now they are imperative. If you want to have a career as a knowledge worker, understanding of your processes, understanding of your general, how do you operate as a company, and having an insight, a good judgment, good understanding of the domain, it is more important than ever because the tools are easy. LLM, the models are the frontier models, as we call them. They are going to be commoditized. They're exponentially improving. Eventually, the value is going to be in judgment, right? And these kind of scenarios, you cannot red team every possible scenario in the world. That's not possible, right? So, but you have to figure this out. What are the scenarios that matter to you in your context, and make sure that you're a team around those scenarios because everything is it is impossible. It is not possible to red team every possible thing that is out there.
No, for sure. And you might see a particular type of attack for your particular type of business go way more frequently than say some other type. So yeah, it makes sense to tailor for sure. I was just thinking, I know Agento allows you to red team and say drill down into a prompt that might lead to attack and the guardrail that it broke, the severity and the like to get an idea of how this works. So just an overview of what red teaming could look like in a system, in an AI system. Maybe you could walk us through that or give us an idea.
Yeah. So let me actually do this here. I am going to start sharing my screen. Let me see, screen number
Yeah.
2. Okay, I will show it to you. So here is, so this is an agent that we use in our, for our boot camps. And so this is a one-on-one tutor. We use it for our AI boot camp and also our data science boot camp. Our agentic AI bootcamp and large language models bootcamp we teach as well, in addition to building this agentic AI platform. Now, when you look at it, first of all, if I go, okay, when I go and look at um, my production agent, first of all, what I will do is, let's say if I want to make a change, I want to connect. Right now, there was search and retriever and attachment that was connected. And I say that, not that it is relevant here, but I said, I also want to connect my Outlook here, right? So I enabled Outlook. And now potentially my exposure surface is different. So, how do I test whether it is my agent or my assistant is still secure? How do I do that? Uh, I flip the switch and then I will come back and I'm going to say, let me test it out. I'm going to hit then this red team and I'm going to click on create an attack. So what I will do here is I'm going to simulate an attack. And in this case, if you look at this, I have this privacy and data leakage. I can test for violence and privacy, bias and fairness, illegal activities, misinformation. So let's say if I want to test it for misinformation, okay? So I'm going to go and run it. And I can go and there's a way I can add more. I can add more queries to customize this as well. But let me actually go and connect it and simulate a red teaming attack. I will go next. And then in this case, I will choose a few more settings. I am going to um, go here. And then what this will do is I'm going to launch this job. And what this will do is it is behind the scenes, it is going to test it out with a few queries and fire them against this agent to ensure that this agent is working well. And I will go back and show it to you for another agent that I have. So for this agent, I already ran this red teaming attack. So I will go and um, go to red team. And as a result of the last run, you see that it has a GDPR and SOC 2 aligned badge. So it has, it has met some criteria. And in this case, what happened is that I ran a red teaming attack. And when I ran a red teaming attack, it just fired off these queries. And if you look at this, it has fired off these queries. It has fired off this query and this query and this query and all of that. It actually ran this query and it published a vulnerability report for me. And then I went ahead and looked at this. 10 prompts, all of them blocked, and there is no vulnerability uh, as far as these 10 queries go, by the way, right? So just I also want to caveat this. Um, these queries can be a good representation of the attack surface, but this system being probabilistic, we do not know if this is comprehensive or not. But you can generate more queries. You can take these 10 queries and generate more of them. One challenge that you may run into is if you try to generate more queries that are like this, using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, they will refuse to actually, in many cases, they will refuse to actually let you generate more similar queries because their own guardrails will trigger. So how do you generate more of these? You can actually get access to unfiltered models. There are models that actually call them guardrail free models. You can actually go and use request or apply for getting those models that don't have any guardrails and leverage those models and create a bigger suite of queries. If you want to run a different kind of simulation, you can certainly do that. Let me actually go back. Where is it? I will go to red teaming attacks, safety badges, and I will click on create attack. So now if I have a different kind of attack that I need to simulate, I am going to, and I can also add my custom data set. I think I forgot to mention this. I can add or upload a custom data set. So if there was some known red teaming or known malicious queries that we are aware of that we don't want our model to fall for in the future, we just maintain that data set and just block it. So in this case, let's say if I go for mental health, now this time around, I can choose more, less queries and singleton and, just flip attack and all of that. So there is some details to this, but I can go, and I will kick off these queries. Okay. Um, then let me go back and see here. Red teaming, hopefully the results are complete. This is the one that I fired just moments ago. So if you look at this, once again, if you look at this here, and I have this vulnerability report. I will open the report and it gives me the summary and then I have this other badge that has been earned. Okay. So, so this is at a very high level that the way we do it in Agento. It's a the way Agento is, and as I may have mentioned this earlier, I mean we have Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies as our customers. We are an enterprise platform where we are we are providing an end-to-end platform. We are not, I mean, we are not only about evals, we are not only about observability, only about red teaming or evaluation or guardrails. We have this end-to-end platform in one place where you can just build any agent, secure it, deploy it, use the API, and so on. Okay,
No,
there
no, for
are,
sure. No, thanks for walking us through that, just to get an idea of what this would look like. And yeah, we will definitely be having these sessions recorded, by the way, which you'll be able to access. It's been really useful to learn about, breaking your AI before you ship it, really, hardening your AI, so it's ready for this, unforgiving world. I think we are getting close to time here, but I want to give anybody, of course, an opportunity to ask their questions, but also you, Roger, if you wanted to make any final points that you felt were important.
yeah, thanks, Rebecca. So I think the way we should be looking at building agents is um, oh, when you're building these agents, and if you are working for a company that matters, you have a few customers, you're exposing an AI agent or AI assistant to a customer or a bunch of customers. Um, Make sure that you build those assistants with security in mind and compliance in mind and governance in mind because it is very different from an AI assistant. AI agent is going to be very different from your classic your classic deployed software, right? And a deployed software, you have tested it out, you've made sure things work, awesome, it will continue to work for the most part. But in an AI agent scenario, you know, it could be there are so many moving parts that having ensuring that the system is secure at all times, it is actually very, very difficult. And this is in one of the recent papers that I published with some of my co-authors in academia. Um, we call it the stochastic tax. This is the price, this is the tax that you pay. And there's nothing we can do about it, right? So, or we cannot completely eliminate it, these problems. We can reduce this tax rate that we have to pay because of the non-determinism, inherent non-determinism in these systems, but we cannot completely eliminate. Elimination of these elimination of all possible problems, this unpredictable behavior, it is not going to be possible. This is inherent. This is by design in these systems. But the goal is
Yeah,
to
and it kind of goes back to that,
put
and
things
oh,
in place.
sorry, kind of goes back to that analogy of, you're not trained for a dangerous situation when you get yourself in danger accidentally. But hopefully you have the skills and the tools to know how to handle any danger that
Mhm.
might come your way. So you know how to get yourself out of a dangerous situation. But you can't always control what kind of dangerous situation you might get yourself into in the future. You never know what this world might
Yeah,
throw at you. So
yeah,
as
yeah,
long as
yeah,
you
yeah,
have the tools in place to be able to handle it well enough, is probably the key here that I took away from that. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think that wraps up today's deep dive session. And we discussed many interesting points, and we have lots more to come, by the way, and you'll see on our LinkedIn, and all our social media. If you follow it, you'll see announcements come out for the upcoming weeks. So keep an eye out, and we look forward to the next one, engaging and learning further.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, everybody.